Hello, and today's purpose of the day is I can identify excluded values of a rational expression. Let's recall some facts. Step 1 of rational functions is to identify and graph asymptotes using dashed lines. We identify asymptotes by finding their excluded values. How do I find the vertical asymptote and horizontal asymptote of a rational function? With the vertical asymptote, I want to set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. For the horizontal asymptote, that is at y equals c. And remember, c in the rational function is whatever is after that fraction when you have y equals that fraction plus or minus whatever c is. Step 2 to graphing rational functions is to make a table with those points, plot and connect on the graph, and make with a smooth curve. So a few goals for us today under 11.3 simplifying rational expressions is the first goal is to find and identify excluded values. So if you can recall, a rational expression is an algebraic fraction whose numerator and denominator are polynomials. What is a polynomial again? You guessed it. A polynomial is a monomial or sum of monomials. So let's look a little bit more at our goal number 1. Find the excluded values for each rational expression. Goal number 1, find the excluded values for each rational expression. Again, this is where we want to set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. So on A, 3b minus 2 over b plus 7, I am going to set b plus 7 equal to 0 and solve for b and get b equals negative 7. Now, what does this mean for being an excluded value? Well, if I were to plug that back in, so negative 7 plus 7, that gives us 0 in the denominator. I could plug in negative 7 in for the numerator, but it doesn't matter what I get in the numerator. As long as I have something over 0, that's undefined, right? Undefined, and that will then be an excluded value, which is also known as our vertical asymptote. All right, let's look at question B, 5a squared plus 2 over a squared minus a minus 12. So I still want to set the denominator equal to 0 here, but now when I set this equal to 0, what do I really have to do? Do you remember? You got it. I have to factor and solve. So I'm going to use the diamond method and find factors of negative 12 that when added together give me negative 1. And those factors are negative 4 and positive 3. So then I would set a minus 4 equal to 0, and I would set a plus 3 equal to 0, and I end up getting 4 for one of my excluded values and negative 3 for the other. And here, both of these values are our solutions because if I were to plug them both back in, here for the denominator, I would get a result of 0. Let's test that out. 4 squared is 16, minus 4 is 12, minus 12 is 0. And let's plug in 3. So here, if I were to plug in 3 squared, I would get 9 minus, negative 3 squared is still 9 minus negative 3, chop is really plus. So I get 12 minus 12 is 0. So both of those values work in our excluded values. Last but not least, question C, I'm still going to set my denominator equal to 0. So if I set 2x plus 1 equal to 0, I want to solve for x. 2x equals negative 1, divide by 2, so x equals negative 1/2. So again, to find those excluded values, we set our denominator equal to 0 and solve. This is also known as finding the vertical asymptote of rational functions. Goal number 2, use rational expressions in real-life situations. So you will see some word problems also when you look at some practice problems. So here, for this example, we want to find the height of a cylinder that has a volume of 770 cubic inches and a diameter of 12 inches. Please round your answer to the nearest tenth. So first off, what is the formula for volume of a cylinder. Well, for volume of a cylinder, we have pi times r squared times the height. So r again is the radius. So just to recap and look at what we need to figure out here, find the height of a cylinder that has a volume of 770 cubic inches and a diameter of 12 inches. So all of that information we will need. So let's look at what we have here and what we can plug in for what we know. So again, volume equals pi times r squared h. And so if we need to find the height, we actually have to solve for h first, right? We want to isolate h. So here, I would actually divide by pi r squared so I can isolate h, right? That cancels out. So then height would equal volume over pi r squared. So now let's just plug in everything that we know. And height equals, our volume they told us was 770. So again, I'm plugging that in for V volume right over there. And then the diameter is 12, and I want the radius. So how do I find radius if I'm given the diameter? Divide by 2. So I would take 770 and divide it by pi times 6 squared. And now I just need to type some of these values into my calculator. And before I do that, I can simplify a bit and say h equals 770 divided by pi times 36. And I get height is equal to, and if I round to the nearest tenth, 6.8 inches. So again, looking at a rational function applied to a real world or word problem scenario. Okay, and here's just a little extra practice on finding excluded values. Take a look and feel free to work on any that you would like. I will post the answers for these as well. Great job! And here are the following answers for 1 through 4.
Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.